Hello and welcome to Global Order. My name is Ishan Dhar. Nepal has just undergone a quote, Gen Z revolution, which has seen the ushering in of a new interim government, the head of which was appointed after a discord vote, no less, leading to many questions about whether the so called game of musical chairs, which is the phrase often used to describe Nepali politics, will carry on or not, or whether we're really looking at something different this time. Joining me today to understand some of the intricacies and questions behind everything that is happening right now is actually a repeat guest. Alisha Sijapati is a journalist formerly with the Nepali Times. She is also an expert and activist when it comes to the repatriation of antiquities in Nepal. She has also recently written a very interesting article about everything that has transpired in Nepal over the last few days in the Nepali Times. We'll be sure to link that in the description of this video below. Please do stay tuned. This is bound to be a fascinating conversation. Alisha, welcome back to Global Order. It's a pleasure to have you, and we're excited to hear your takes and insights on these, I think, very unprecedented developments in Nepal.
Thank you so much for having me over in Global Order again. I think it's been a while. I think the last time I was getting interviewed by you was in 2021.
Yeah, that's right. 4 years ago, during your repatriation days.
A lot has changed.
Absolutely. And now, without further ado, let's set the context for what has happened in Nepal last week. When we hear about politics in Nepal, the phrase a game of musical chairs is often used to describe at least transfers of power between various governments that have come and gone. How would you characterize the political system post the monarchy? And what frustrations were young people experiencing specifically under KP Sharma Oli's government this time around that caused such extreme disillusionment?
Uh, Ishan, Nepal has gone through massive turbulence in its history, and it's been difficult for our country and for the people since the 1950s and even before that. And it's 2025 now. We're almost in 2026, and a lot has changed. And it's been difficult for even us Nepalis to process what has happened because things have rampantly changed in this country within the gap of 10 years or 20 years. And it's difficult for every generation to keep up because the history keeps changing.
Right.
And that's been something interesting for us. And going back to what you just mentioned, I think the problem Nepal has faced, I would particularly go back to 1990. That was one of the biggest movements Nepal has had,
Right.
that we underwent a democratic system where there was already democracy, but there was a shift to constitutional monarchy in 1990, where the current leaders like Sharbadu Deuba, KP Sharma, they all came out.
Right.
They've all been out, and they've been in power for quite a while now. I was born in 1991, so they've been in power and they've been in the game for a very long time. And this time around, and I think the sentiment is the same, that they had to go, they had to retire. And the musical chair with Sharbadu Deuba, KP Oli, and Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who's massively known as Prachanda,
Right.
who rose in power after the Maoist insurgency, after the monarch was thrown. And they've been in power for a while, and the promises they've had, they've not delivered. There's been rampant corruption, and they've just been saving each other. For the people, for us, they don't like each other. And most importantly, I th I do understand and I do believe that Nepal really needed change.
Hmm.
We really needed change because there was corruption in every level. I mean, if you want me to list it out for you, I can list that out for you. There had to be some kind of changes. And going back to that, there's been game of musical chairs, particularly in the party system. I think Nepalis who have been frustrated with the party system, frustrated with Nepali Congress, the MLA, the Maoists, and we don't need that anymore. We don't need the party to be leading the country. We need leaders to be leading the country, not the parties. And I think that was something we were all very frustrated about. And also, there was a balance of give and take. We were giving. We were giving everything, our taxes, 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 and taxes. And every budget, there's an increase in tax. But what is it that we're getting? We're getting nothing out of it, and it was just increasing. And I was in Vipassana when all of this happened.
Right.
So when I returned, the last I remember, before heading to Vipassana, there were two to three things that was really getting into people's nerves. One was um, about the emboss number plate system for transportation. One, and the second one was the polygamy bill that
Right.
the National Law Commission wanted to pass, and the other one was the registration of all the social media. So I think that was something that was building up when I
Right.
left. And going back to what you asked about on what really happened under KP Oli's government,
Yeah.
young people have felt deeply disillusioned by rampant corruption, and particularly the lack of economic opportunities. So the youth unemployment stood at approximately 21%, 20, I would say 20.8%, rounding off to 21% in 2024 for those aged between 15 to 24 years.
Right.
So, it was significantly higher than the global average. So, this economic marginalization combined with perception of self-serving political elites and with what has come out thanks to social media, the term nepo kids for
Right.
their corrupt privileges have also fueled a wide sense of betrayal, and it has also created a fertile ground for mass protest. And this, with how I and many people see it, this revolution has been of major class division,
Okay.
major economic class division. So that's how uh, this revolution began.
So now you raised a number of things that I would like to tap into further. When looking at it from the outside, when we look at what the purported immediate trigger was, we're often told about the social media ban. The social media ban is but you've described a number of particular factors. The other thing that also came up somewhat, at least on the outside, were these nepo kids. What was the immediate trigger, in your opinion? And can you tell us more about that?
I think things were really building up for us.
Right.
Things were really building up because there were cases of Bhutani refugees. There were cases of and there was just like I can't even remember because there's been like massive corruption that has occurred in Nepal that you can't really keep tabs of them. And you know we were boiling like a pressure cooker. you know the public was really boiling up, and there were a lot of people, a lot of youth migrating as laborers to West Asia, to many other countries, even in within all, I mean, all over the world, right? And the frustration was going because who would want to leave their country and go abroad to work? And interestingly, remittance is something that the government has highly been interested.
Right.
And social media ban was just a part of it. I mean, it was a catalyst, but it was not the immediate trigger. with how I have seen it. I knew, we all of us knew for like since past 2 years. I would say, you know, 2021. Let's go back to when you interviewed me. So that was 2021.
Right,
So when, you know, it was the second lockdown for COVID, I remember when
right,
I was last interviewed by you. And then I went to Vienna to do my master's. And then I returned to Kathmandu in 2023. So within that 2 years, a lot had changed. A lot of things have changed. And, you know, Kathmandu had become really expensive and we were just paying tax. Like, for instance, there was a new system in this country where, you know, that something really frustrated me was the Social Security Fund.
okay,
Every organization had to have social security fund for the employees. And interestingly, you know, our salary is being cut and then it's being kept in social security fund, you know, which is our money. And then when we go and ask them, can we get it back? Then a certain tax is being cut and it'll be kept with the will be with the government. And how is that fair? Because earlier on, when we had Provident Fund, at least, you know, even if our money was cut, the organization put in at least 10 to 20% of it, and then we would get it back. But this time, we were not getting anything. The benefits were just, we were just not getting the benefit of anything. And I think that was really sad. And the immediate trigger with the government sudden ban was also, yes, there was already, like I said, there was already a lot of things happening, but the catalyst obviously was the social media platform. Things were building up, and obviously the first day that the protest happened, that was on September 7th, it was supposed to be a peaceful protest.
right.
It was not supposed to be a violent one. And it was because that people were killed, innocent lives were killed, that we, you know, things did turn around to be very nasty the second day, right?
Right.
And with whatever people have been saying, oh, you know, Nepalese went violent because of social media was banned, 26 apps were banned. That's not entirely true because it was boiling up. Things were really getting bad, and it was just about time. There was a need for change, but this was extremely radical. And I think that is something which has really shocked all of us, and we're all still processing it.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to the next question, which is how exactly was, uh, I guess, this Gen Z uprising organized? Because even looking at this from the outside, one can't help but make comparisons to, the so-called the color revolutions that have happened in the past. And there are allegations of external actors as well as political actors on the ground being involved in what took place, sort of suggesting that this is not entirely a revolution, but even partially a regime change. Do you see this as a largely organic movement or something more complex than that?
I mean, there have been claims, including comparisons to color revolutions, but you know that suggests that this could have been externally influenced. Sorry, it could have been externally influenced, and some instances of political violence have also raised suspicions of deeper involvement locally, and you know, Gen Z predominantly organized protests through digital tools, especially the Discord platform,
Right.
and which also, you know, allow decentralized and rapid coordination. So, you know, while some observers have speculated about, like earlier I said, that there have been speculation about external influences.
Yeah.
I mean, the evidence points largely to an organic grassroots youth with uprising motivations and genuine grievances. And also, and the grievances have been about corruption and representation and economic opportunities and class division. And, with the local political factions and some violent incidents, it complicated the movement, especially the second day. It's been largely being reported that the second day was infiltrated by those with vested interest. And, it does look like it as well, because if you see and if you read the news, there were buildings that were being burned down. Obviously, the government buildings were all gone.
Right.
Police stations were all gone. Patpateni, the biggest supermarket in Nepal,
Right.
and in various branches, only four survived. And they were all gone, and houses of businessmen, tycoons, they were burned down, and even those of corrupted politicians, or I would say, in quote, corrupted politicians were
Allegedly.
burned. Yes. And yeah, it is really sad to see to how things have turned out to be, and particularly that it does look like it was orchestrated, it was pre-orchestrated, it was pre-planned. And if and I do also do know, and I have a lot of Gen Z friends who are out there on the streets
Right.
who've been part of Discord, that they wanted something very peaceful, and you know getting killed and mobbing the country and the people was not part of the agenda. And it surely looks like the second day there were people with vested interest.
Right.
And it is, for me personally, like I'm very proud of the Gen Z movement, because that's something people of my generation couldn't do. And it's just it's also given hope and confidence to all of us that okay, things may get better now. And because even earlier on, as a journalist, as a writer, as a heritage activist, knowing that there is corruption, knowing that certain people are behind a few things, I wasn't being able to do anything, because there's always been, I think, for all of us Nepalis, there's been this um, issue that where you want to fit in.
Right.
Nepal has always been about fitting in with certain political faction, certain political parties, certain circle, certain groups. And, you know, for you to wanting to fit in, for you to wanting to be able to survive, it's been the survival of the fittest. So you really couldn't voice out your opinion. You couldn't really voice out the truth. And I think this revolution has really kind of changed that. Well, at least with how I perceive it.
Right. And what can you tell us about the NGO that's been in the middle of all of this? And I guess some of the individuals that are associated with it.
Well, Hami Nepal,
Right.
the NGO that has been a part of it, they've been around for quite a while. They've been doing amazing job in terms of helping around people all over Nepal. And that's something very commendable. And they were the ones who started the Discord group. They were the one who established it. And well, with how I see it, we had to have someone to be out there. So when this whole Gen Z protest was happening, according to one of the protesters who were there, it was supposed to be very peaceful, and they didn't know where to go about things. So Hami Nepal the has been that faction, or has been that group who has voluntarily helped the gap between the Gen Zs and the the government right now. And that was really needed. There had to be somebody there, because all the big politicians who wanted to change the country, they were nowhere to be found.
Right.
And interestingly, it was Sushila Karki who was also out there protesting, and it was her luck, and it's also, I would say, more than a luck, it's also a credibility that she turned out to be the first female prime minister of Nepal, even if it's in interim.
Right. And Before we get into Sushila Karki, can you tell me about, I guess, the most prominent individuals that are involved with Hami Nepal? I believe there are at least two that that one reads about in the news every now and then.
Well, I think the one is Sudan Gurung, and
Right.
this morning I was just going through. I'm still recovering. I'm also processing. I'm also still
Right.
watching videos, and I've been. I just saw Sudan Gurung, who is one of the main founders of Hami Nepal, and his emotions and his raw passion, which is out there. And it's not for any vested interest. It is very visible because there are women crying out there. They've lost their children, and even people who've not lost their children, they can feel Sudan Gurung's voice. They can feel the animosity. I wouldn't say animosity, the grievances, the grief, and
Yeah.
the anger with the government, the anger with corruption. And it was just increasing. So people have been supporting him through and through. And we need people like Sudan Gurung, an organization like Hami Nepal, and there are also Instagram pages like How to Desh Bikas, and they have really helped us educate ourselves in terms of governance, in terms of being philanthropic, because I think Nepal really lacked philanthropy in a while.
Right.
Like it is very obvious. The country was already the whole revolution was about corruption, and philanthropy was just themselves.
Right. So now coming to Sushila Karki's appointment as the interim prime minister, according to you, on what basis was this selection made? And
Well,
we can also get into the process of the Discord vote, and uh, which I believe was technically unofficial or informal, but still informed the selection as it were. So, what can you tell us about this whole process?
while I will address to what you have to say, let me just go to the Discord app.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, it's been, well, I joined Discord too to understand to what is really happening.
Yeah.
And I believe that Karki was not the first choice, and she was not cherry-picked. There were other prominent names that were coming up. Was the mayor of Kathmandu, Balan.
Right.
There was Kulman Gising, the former director of NEA, and the appointment was driven by a coalition involving youth protest leaders and President Ramchandra Paudel and Army Chief Ashok Raj Sigdal. So a key factor was the
Consensus. Yeah.
consensus formed through a Discord vote where Karki secured around 62% support of approximately 7,700 voters. And obviously there were, let me go to the poll section. Let me go to the poll section. So who now? Well, I can show it to you here. Who now?
Right.
So Sushila Karki was about 7,713 people voted.
Right.
So Sushila Karki had 3,833 votes. Then there was Harka Sampang, who has 6% with 487 votes. Then there's Sagar Dhakal with 1,098 votes. Random Nepali with 2,022 votes. The Random Nepali is a lawyer. His name
Okay.
is Rashtra. His name is Rashtra.
Right.
And then there was Habir Poon, or a philanthropic person. So yes, and it was Sushila Karki who did get the maximum vote, and it wasn't the formal way of doing things,
Right.
but it was, like I said, it was a catalyst. Discord has been a catalyst space.
Right.
I wouldn't like, how the international media or the Indian media is perceived that, oh, Prime Minister was voted through Discord, or um, there's been social media ban. It was the social media ban. No, I mean, I don't think Nepalis are that vain. There's always, something or the other has happened for us to be out there on the street. And it is not just Discord or a social media ban to how we've been reduced to that level. And it is not that.
Right. And now, actually, I suppose the expected timeline of this government is from now till March 2026.
Yes.
And a lot could happen in that period of time. There have already been some cabinet appointments. What can you tell us about those appointments and the reactions of some of these youth leaders that are involved? Because I suppose in some ways it could portend how, I guess, for the lack of a better word, arrangement that's been cobbled together might hold in the coming months.
Well, I think first, a lot can happen in 6 months, because this whole revolution that happened, it was in 2 days. So anything can happen. Anything can happen until March 2026. And how the spiritual leaders, or how people keep saying that, oh, you should focus on the present, not on in the future, and past is just a memory. And I think that also true right now for us Nepalis, because anything can happen tomorrow.
Right,
You never know what can happen tomorrow, but anything can happen, and you just have to be on your toes until March. And you don't know what is going to happen. And this, as I mean, a lot of people would want to stay under control, but for us, we do not know what is control right now. Well, at least we do have three ministers that have been appointed,
yeah,
and we're all very hopeful that something productive can happen. It's not going to happen overnight, and we don't even know if changes, positive changes, or any kind of negative changes will also come within the next 6 months. But we at least have to give them a chance, because these are not the same people playing musical chairs that
right,
we've been fed up of. These are new people who have done incredible job, that who have been respected. And I'm sure, I wouldn't say I'm sure, but I'm hopeful that something will come out of it, because I think we're all just tired.
right. Now let's look at some of the political actors that we keep hearing about and what, again, all speculative, what may happen in the interim. Well, of course, we can't ignore the erstwhile monarch, Gyanendra Shah. We recently had Manisha Koirala come on another Indian podcast and say that the monarchy should be given space. He was, of course, not a candidate in the Discord poll that you talked about. There's a lot of speculation about whether he intends to be involved in politics again at some point, what shape or form. How do you see this playing out? Is he still a variable or is he not?
Oh, wow, that's a good question, and a heavy one, and a tricky one at that. Okay, so this is my personal perspective,
Right.
and I will not speak for anybody else, but for what I feel.
Yeah.
You know, 72 people died this time around. And you know, right now, there are people talking about the former King Gyanendra should be back. Nepal was much better during monarchy, and I think people have forgotten that people did die during Jan Andolan when King Gyanendra was being overthrown. People did die during his regime as well. I think people have forgotten that. And I think it is time that we give chance to new people. If he has to come back, if the former king has to come back, there has to be a strong manifesto. He can obviously, I can see for a fact that since the monarchy has gone, there's been a lack of respect in this country for anybody. There's been a deep existential crisis as well.
Right.
But at the same time, if the former king wants to come back, he has to prove himself. He cannot just come out once in a blue moon, give a statement, and say, okay, I would want to come back for the nation. I would want to do this, that. But that is not enough. We gave you a chance before. We can still give you a chance, but you have to come with something concrete.
A concrete vision that
Yes,
the youth can buy into.
yes. I mean, right now it's just about nostalgia with how I see, but it depends. I mean, March 2026 is not far. There's election coming up. You know, anybody and everybody has a chance this time to be out there to prove themselves. And I'm sure, likewise, the former monarch also will be given that opportunity if he wants to come, right?
Right.
And I think for me particularly, anybody can come, anybody can go, but you know, it just cannot be shallow talks. You have to do something for the country. You have to do something for the people.
You did say, however, there are some who are, um, I guess, nostalgic about
Yes.
what he comes to represent. How would you define what that constituency is in terms of, I guess, demographically? Is it a certain age group? Is it a certain locality? I mean, who would those people be?
I think it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
It's a mixed bag of all. And I wouldn't particularly say one or the other, but with past couple of months, with how I've seen it, I think Nepalis just wanted change,
Right.
any kind of change. There was already a desperation that they wanted to really come out from this musical chair of leadership
Right.
and of the same political parties leading, and there was corruption, rampant corruption that was happening. And I think the us Nepalis, we just wanted to get off that loop. And with, Sushila Karki, she was the former Chief Justice. And right now, she is the Prime Minister of our country, and that is hope because she's a new person in leadership. You know, Former King Gyanendra, we've seen him. The Holy Trinity that we call Sharbadu Deva, Kipi Sharma Oli, and Prachanda. I think people are done with them.
Right.
We want new change, and if the former monarch has to come back, he will. But things will not be the same. The foundation has to be completely different. The transformation has to be there. He cannot come back as the old Shah monarch. He has to bring reform. He has to bring change if he really wants to come back.
Right.
He
So,
cannot be the
so if
same old
he
person.
were to return, you essentially see the return of a constitutional monarch that cannot revert to absolute monarchy under any circumstance.
Well, he could be ceremonial.
Yeah, so a constitutional monarch in that sense.
He could be because right now you really can't say anything because I don't even think these leaders knew that they would have gone through so much of mess when all of these things were happening. Their house got burned down.
Right,
I mean, a month back, did they think about it? No. And did we all think about it? No. So you just never know. So we just have to brace ourselves and accept whatever is going to come. And we don't know what leaders, and there's no law and order in this country right now.
right.
There's no Supreme Court. There's no the judiciary, executive orders. They're all gone. So and there are 15,000 prisoners have fled.
Right.
These are scary times, Ishan, and we really, really have to be secure, and we really have to look out for ourselves now.
Another name that has come up in all of this is Balain Shah, who I believe is the mayor of Kathmandu, besides also being a very popular rapper, who was also believed to be in contention for becoming the head of a future government at some point. What if you had to speculate on his political future? What do you see?
I mean, Balin has
And
been.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. And what exactly what role did he play during this last week when this uprising took place?
I mean, Balin has been out there. I would say, I think the word for Balin is he's also very performative.
Okay,
And having said that, he's done a great job. He is just out there. People just love his audacity
right,
and with how he carries himself and to what he says. And he challenges the system, which is more important because right now we needed someone to challenge the system. And I think with how Balansha as the independent candidate came as a mayor, he won the election. I think it already showed signs that we needed change. We needed new people, not from political parties. The revolution is not got to do with bringing back the monarch. It is, you know, it is about change. It is about radical change. And we just wanted to get off the loop of these multi-party political system that has happened.
right,
And there's just been, to be very honest, I personally have been frustrated with the corrupted system, with the bureaucracy. And for someone like me who went to Austria to do my master's, and I returned with the hope of wanting to do something for my country. And here I was facing bureaucratic hassles, and the government is not interested in heritage. The government is not interested in liberal arts. Why are the youth of Nepal leaving the country and going abroad? And is because there's no space for us to grow. For everything there's tax, for everything there's corruption. You have to pay someone or the other, and it is really frustrating for us because there's nothing we can really do because we want to do something for our country, right? Who wants to leave their country and go work for someone else? And if you look at it, there are so many colleges in Nepal with bachelors in business administration or like IT and stuff, but very few for people who wants to study liberal arts or who wants to do something. And there's hardly anybody who wants to study history or philosophy or who if per se development studies was really getting attention, but with development agencies backing off with their donation, there's very little in that aspect as well. So what do people really do?
right.
What should we do?
And you also mentioned with regards to Hami Nepal, the NGO that was, I guess, in some ways behind all of this. You mentioned Sudan Gurung. Do you see this individual becoming more political as we head towards March 2026, or do you think this organization group of people is going to continue to be technically non-political, as it has been, I guess, until a week ago?
Well, I think for now, I would say you never know. Anything can happen with what has happened in the past week.
Yeah,
Anything can happen. Like, well, I would say that in a way, there's a big game that's being played. It was
Okay.
largely orchestrated. The second day was largely orchestrated. A lot of, you can also say that, maybe some of the politicians and the business people were cherry picked at some point. And
Cherry picked to be attacked during the second
yes, cherry
deployment.
picked to
Okay.
be attacked.
Okay.
And with how I see it, and unfortunately for me, I also have to mention this that, Nepalis have also, as much as I am proud to be a Nepali, they've also disappointed me because, yes, these politicians were corrupt. They've gone to their houses, looked for money, they've looted supermarkets. This is not the Nepal I grew up in.
Right.
We are known to be one of the most helpful people in the world. And yes, there are, TikTok videos and Instagram videos where, Gen Zs are also having fun. They're the most serious, they're serious and also unserious at the same time. But, it's time we really have to reflect because the fault lies within us that we voted for these people. And this is how we have looted their house because they've looted us, we've looted them. And where is our society heading to? And that's something we really have to ask ourselves within. We have to turn inward and ask ourselves, like, is this what we want? What do we really want for ourselves and for the country? And I think we've been laid back for a while now.
So, what would your, and I guess even the Nepalese youth, what would their expectations be from this interim government? What would you like them to be able to accomplish between now and March?
I mean, a lot of things have changed, and this particular interim government unfortunately has a lot of responsibilities on their shoulders, and they will not be able to bring any kind of change within the next 6 months. It's going to be, it's nothing's going to be drastic. I
Right.
believe it's going to be small few steps of changes. Yeah, and I do not have big expectations from them because, they're just human beings after all. You cannot put in so much expectations on them.
And
And I'm sure with whatever time frame that they have, they'll try to do their best. I think that's what I hope for because these previous political parties, these previous leaders, they've had decades to, make changes. They have made changes. I'm not saying that they've not made changes, but at the cost of what? At lives of what and whom? I feel really bad that these people who were killed, a year down the line, people may not even remember them. And I don't think we should be in a space where we forget them because they've lost their lives. And you should have seen yesterday's videos of people being cremated in Pashupati. It was really sad to watch their families grieving. And right now, with whatever's happening, with Prachanda making bold statements that, oh, we'll have even a better and bigger party building. I mean, is he delusional? Is my one question. And then, unfortunately, even the media, Nepali media, is also at fault that we have given spaces to these politicians again. And why do we have to give them spaces? And it's unfortunate for us that these leaders are still out there making statements and nobody's doing anything about it. 72 people, Ishan, and the country is mourning today.
right. And it might be too early to tell, but do you see any significant change uh, when it comes to Nepal's foreign relations, in particular when it comes to this neighborhood? Uh, Not just with this interim government, but I guess with the broader shakeup that seems to have happened. Do you see do you see things eventually settling down to the way they have been, or do you think there's going to be a real meaningful difference there as well?
I mean, a lot has changed. It's just become crazy, and like how it has shocked us. I'm sure it has shocked everybody all over the world.
Right,
There've been memes, there've been videos all over the world. People have been talking about it, and specifically, I know it has affected India. It has also affected China because we're sandwiched between these two big
right.
countries, right? And there's always been, Nepal has always marched to its own tune. And we've always had conflicting relationship with China and India. And also at the same time, we also forget about it. And, right now, I do believe that I'm sure all the countries all over the world, they've been closely monitoring
Right.
developments due to Nepal's strategic geopolitical significance, especially India and China. And there has been, I mean, diplomatic pressures and international support or criticism have the potential to sway away the interim government's decision making.
Right.
It could be, but right now it's such a sensitive space to be in because this has happened from a grassroots level.
Yes,
Yes, it could have also been orchestrated, but I think it is
they're
time,
also under pressure from Gen Z, is what you're saying.
yes,
That's
and
that's
it's
sort of
also
feeling.
time that the international delegates or diplomats have to give us space right now. It's easier said than done. I'm sure that there's a lot of pressure. There's been a lot of analysis, foreign policy analysis, political analysis, this, that. But emotionally speaking, I come from an emotional space that Nepal is mourning. We're still processing. We're still in a shock, and we need some time. And that's what needs to be given to us because I don't think Nepal can ever go back to where it was because I haven't seen something so violent even when there was massacre, even in during the people's movement, even during the Maoist insurgency and the Jan Andolan. Then this was something next level.
And now, before we conclude, when we're looking at, I guess, the success of both this interim government, this setup, and as well as, I guess, the environment that needs to be in place for the forthcoming elections, do you see any significant risks to this process or success? And if so, what would those possibly be?
I mean, the interim government will face and has been facing backlash, and I
Right.
think it's only natural, right? And I mean, let's talk about institutional resistance, and it may come from entrenched political elites who are still trying to, you know,
Yeah, you
make
mentioned
themselves.
Prachanda, for instance.
Yes. And not just Prachanda, there are many other political leaders as well, and you know they want to bring reforms in their own ways, and they will try to put pressure on the current government, especially in terms of opening files on corruption. And that's something the former political elites have been dreading, I'm sure. And there's been the Nepal Bar Association and some political parties. They've openly opposed aspects of Karki's appointment,
Right.
and also they've cited on constitutional concerns, but I'm glad that the constitution is still there. That's very important. And in addition, there's been internal divisions within the Gen Z movement as well. I mean, the various voices that's coming in forward, but in solidarity, there's one thing that's common is that there needs change,
So
and all of us will have their own.
that's the common denominator for now, is what
Yes,
you're saying.
that's the common stance, and I think that's an important one.
Alisha, that was most insightful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ishan.